Morning, one and all. Hope you're having a good evening. You didn't have major issues with this cold air that the Canadians slung down on us Canadians. Ha! Anyway, I say that jokingly. I've got Canadian friends. So don't be offended. But let's talk about bows. Bows and stuff. Sinew back bows. Sinew back bows with these tips. You can see it's working out pretty good. This thing right there that you see that looks kind of askew, all that is a strip of back strap sinew that I wrapped around there to keep, because on any inside corner, especially a sharp one like that, you have to keep it compressed until it's completely done dead. And after it dries out quite a bit more, then it's time to sand it. I'll remove some of the thickness from here. Not all of it, got to keep some sinew, but I'll refine it and make it look even slicker than that. And then, that's not all. Take deer rawhide, just a small little bit. Sand it till it's paper thin. Paper thin. Size bow again. Get some hide glue over there, and it's after it's all sanded here. And then I'll take that. This is tricky. I've never heard anybody else say this. I think I rediscovered, and I'm sure it's been done in the past, is when I soak my rawhide that sanded it down, so it's paper thin, it's got to be super thin. Soak it in gluey, a thin hide glue mixture. Hide glue, not just water, because when you take that out, it's got hide glue imbued. That's our vocabulary word for today. Imbued within its fibers. And so with that sizing, even though there's hide glue in there, it's how I glued it down, it'll be like contact cement. It'll stick. That warm, imbued with hide glue rawhide will stick to that nicely. Then this is tricky. I take a bowstring, and this is not by a long shot ready to be braced or final tillered or anything. Take that bowstring and put it from this one to that one, loose, and then put a block at the handle here to give it some tension so that bowstring is pulling against that. In these inside corners, that bowstring will cinch that rawhide right into there, and that's good padding. That's why the First Nations people that did that put rawhide on there to cushion the bowstring and also make it smoother, so the sinew bowstrings or fiber bowstrings wouldn't wear out as fast. That rawhide makes a very nice, slick, smooth surface for a knock. You don't need to have bent tab tips to do that. I've done it on a lot of bows. I've done it on my paddle bows, before. Keep that string from wearing out. Okay, so order of operations. I go about, think about this, out of the box, is if you go to YouTube, how to sinew back a bow, you might see people soaking their sinew in water to soften and lengthen. I don't like it. It works the same way with that padding. If you soak your sinew in water first, and those little fibers are full of water, are they going to absorb as much glue? Are they going to bond as well? That's common sense. Is that if you allow a hide glue mixture to soak into them and not water, which they're full of water, how are they going to absorb any more of a surface kind of a bond? So I don't soak them in water. And it's perfectly fine. If you want to take, like I've done many, many times, more than twice, more than 150 probably, you've got your cardboard or your table or whatever, your work surface. You've got the little bundles that you're going to stick on there. You grab one, you put it on, grab another one, overlap it, brickwork pattern all over it. It's perfectly fine, but I've gotten to the point where I will take, in this 10 tendons on here, and I've got a caveat, 10 tendons. I had 5 bundles. I'm assuming that's probably about 2 tendons per bundle of nice fluffy white fibers. Only 5, not 50. The individual ones, or 60 or 100 or whatever you have. but only 5. And I take the entire 5 bundles one at a time. Big old blob. I don't stick that whole thing on here at once, but put it in my hide glue mixture, and it's big thick bundle in there, and I let it soak for 5 minutes. Maybe more. The longer it soaks in warm hide glue, not hot, because it'll shrivel, the better they'll work. The softer they will be, the easier to work with. Picture that. Instead of, I would take my individual bundle that I'm going to stick on there, pull it from the work surface, dip it in the hide glue, count to 20, and then stick it on there. 20, whatever that is. Let's say I'm a perfect 1 second per one, 20 seconds. Does not compare with just sitting it in there for 5 or 10 minutes and just letting, you don't have the hard-ons. You know, because some of the tendon pieces, the little fibers, they'll have hard-ons. Those hard-ons are gone if they've soaked 5 or 10 minutes in the hide glue. But this is the trick. I will take that and I keep it. Picture this. This is a bundle. This big thick bundle right here. If you're careful, you can peel off the individual bundle to stick on there from that big mass that's in the hide glue and not turn it into a big old rat's nest. You can retain the quality of this big bundle in there when you pull off, as long as you're careful. Then lay it down. Then peel off another one. Lay it down. Now let's get into patterns. Most people, me included, if it's just a simple debow, the first little bundle I lay down, center on the handle, then overlap it, then overlap it, then overlap it. So I've got that center one going down there to the tip. Then you take it and you curl it around. Then the next one will be next to that center one, but it'll be shifted a little bit because it has to be brickwork type of thing. A brick, you know, picture a brick wall. And typically in a bow this wide, I will have the center one on either side, then another one on the edge. It'll be 5 wide, 5 rows, I guess you would say. Starting from the handle, then come back, you know. But on a bow like this, that has tips like this, in a lot of bows really, again, I work differently than most people because I ain't normal. Don't accuse me of that. The first 2 that I lay down on the tips, on this one especially, so I get some good distance. You can see it there. The first one up here and around. And so this tip right here is the width of the first bundle. Then I go to the other side. Number 2. Starting right here, over and around. Then the next ones I do, cover this and along the edge, then this one. And so I work from tip to the center. I don't work from the center to the tips. It's how I roll. After I did this stuff up here, because I've got this shoulder and I've got that center, goes down here. The next thing I did is I did the edges. Because so far I've only laid down 6. One right dead center, one right here, one across that shoulder. The tips are done. The shoulders and that little knob thing there are done. Now I do the edges because I'm fresh. I've only laid down 6, so I'm still, my concentration is good, my eyesight is still good. Even for an old man, I do the edges. And once I get this thing all edged, then I start working down. One side, and then the next side. Symmetrical, you know. Do 2 at a time on the edges and working towards the center. That's weird. Most people don't do that. They'll do from the center of the limb and working out. I go from the edge working in. But, you know, 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Now, I've said many times, make sure that you have more sinew than you think you need. I thought that 10 would do this. I thought 10 tendons would do this. I've got There's more arriving soon, but I ran low. Now this is going to shock and amuse you probably, because I am just like you. I goof up sometime, but don't fear, owner of this bow. No big deal. I ran out of sinew. I've got this bare strip of wood from here to right here. It's edged. It's good. I mean, it's strong. It'd probably be a functional bow right now, but I am going to cover that wood up. I did with that 10 tendons till I ran out. Did enough of it, because who cares? The handle doesn't bend, and so I only have like the heel, maybe 3 inches of uncovered bending section, maybe 5 on this side. No big deal. I'll just fill it all in. But gotta be careful. Gotta be careful. Because if you were to just take this bow, it's going to be pretty dry by the time the new sinew rolls in here and I process it and I get to sticking it down here. It's going to be pretty darn dry. And if I'm not careful, if I don't go about this correctly, the second round of sinew backing to fill in these open spots, they won't stick. Glue has this weird inability to stick to itself. What do they say? That only super glue sticks to itself, you know, as well as can be possible. Glues don't like to stick to themselves, and so you have to take precautions. Now, the horn bow makers of old, the masters in the Middle East and Europe and Asia, stuff like that there, a lot of them I've heard would first layer done, then let it dry out completely, then put the second layer on. And I'm assuming that's because as it dries out, it goes into reflex. Then you add sinew, goes into more reflex. Let it dry out, put the third layer, and that's how they get those, when they're unstrung, tip almost touching tip. There's a reason for that. But they also knew what the heck they were doing. They understood that if you don't take serious precautions when you're taking new sinew and bonding it to dried sinew, if you don't take precautions to do it right, you're going to screw yourself up. Just like I'm not going to mention the author or the book or connection to a possible major multi-volume collection of bow making stuff, that they would sand it. Obviously the bow back is dry. Then they would take hide glue, rub it on there, take a wet rag and swipe it over that, and it would make a nice mirrored surface. But what they don't mention is if you dry this bow, smear more hide glue on there, then wipe it and polish it with that wet rag, chances are it's going to flake off. It's not going to bond. There was no mention to preparing that back like the master hornbow makers. They were just, yes, there are errors in that, discrepancies. Or maybe they just accidentally left out, you have to do this before you do this. Maybe they intentionally did it so you learn by trial and error, because that's the one true teacher is screwing up. But what I'm going to do mimics how I put the wraps on here. See, there's no wraps on this. Well, first of all, I ran out of sinew, so I can't put any wraps on it, but I wouldn't anyway. I want this to dry thoroughly and get as shrunk as it's possibly going to be, because my wraps are going to be better than. Picture this. Fresh sinew back bow, and you think I'm just going to put my wraps on there. Well, the back will shrink, and then those wraps won't shrink as much as they possibly could. I'm trapping myself in a sentence here. Just picture you put the wraps on a thicker section here because it hasn't shrunk yet. Those wraps aren't going to be gripping down as tightly as if they were placed on a dried, smaller surface. Think about it. It does make sense. But you have to take precautions again. I'll take warm water, downright hot water, and I'll rub it all over the area that I'm going to put the wraps on. Then I'm going to do it again. I'm going to wait. Then I'm going to do it again. I want this to get tacky and prepare itself to bond to new stuff. You have to rejuvenate that outer layer or it ain't going to work as good. You've seen that if you've put the wraps on here and then you put the string grooves in and you see how those wraps peel up and then you have to re-glue them. That's because they weren't bonded. Derp. And so you get this rehydrated, and it's not going to soak in all the way. It's just going to get the outer edge. Put your wraps on. Works the same way with how I'm going to join the new sinew to the old sinew. And then, this is tricky, and I've never heard anybody else say this. After I put those wraps on there, I don't want it to dry right away. I don't want it to dry fast. I want that older layer to rehydrate again. So you've heard me say it again if you've watched all of my 5 million videos. Take strips of a garbage bag or a plastic grocery bag and wrap it over there a couple times with that plastic so it doesn't dry out. You don't want it to dry out. Leave it on there for 8-10 hours. Put it on in the morning and take it off the next morning. The longer, the better, you know, within reason. Don't do it in the year 2030. But that plastic wrap will keep it from evaporating and it will stick like heck. And you'll see it too, because if you put your string grooves in it then, after the wrapping has dried, take the plastic off, you know, after whatever, a day, 8 hours, 10 hours, as patient as you can be, you'll find that that sinew will not peel up when you're putting a groove into it. It works. So, same theory on this. I will probably take some kind of a thick cloth or something like that, one that can absorb quite a bit of water, lay water on it, fill it full of water, fill that stuff full of water that's gonna, like the little thin sponge sections or sections of a dishcloth or whatever, you know, to retain water, then wrap it with plastic and just let it sit. What the heck? Water isn't gonna hurt the bow. It's gonna dry out while it's curing anyway. And when that is, hopefully it gets kind of white, you know, like fresh sinew, and it's tacky as all get out, then I can add some hide glue for a sizing on there, and then add my fresh sinew, and guess what I'm going to do again? Put plastic wrap over it and just let it sit for a while. You got to be careful, you know, it's not the finishing that determines whether or not it's going to work out, it's the preparation. The preparation is key to that. And so that's it. Now, I would like to say hi to Daniel. Check out his videos channel. He forges, and not checks, but stuff made out of metal. DG Undead Forge. DG Undead Forge. I watched quite a few of his shorts. He's a good guy. And the one thing that I like, you know, about my modest little bow making channel is the camaraderie. And also the variety of people. I've got artisans that watch my channel, believe it or not. Some of them speak up in the comment sections. A lot of them don't, but they email me and stuff. I mean, I've got ultra great people that forge. I've got ultra artists in making stone points, you know, and there's even people that came to my channel, you know, when I was like punking flat earthers, you know, and people that play the mandolin, and people that like beach cruisers. You know, there was a certain method to my madness, and every so often having some weird video. I call it harvesting people from outside of the bow community, you know, and believe it or not, I've done videos on flat earth, you know, I don't believe it, and so I would do, this is my scientific reasons for not believing that the earth is flat, you know, or playing a mandolin song or something. I've had all of these different people, almost all of them, I'm not going to say all, I don't say all and I don't say nothing, But a lot of the people that come to my videos from other avenues discover the miracle of primitive archery. And some of them are actually now making bows. I have to be honest, I've questioned myself. It's a bow making channel, John J. Riggs Archery, or whatever I call myself. Why do I have the mystery song? Why do I talk about this? Why do I talk about this? It doesn't have anything to do with bows, but trust me, kind of a natural born teacher. That's what I like to do. I like to harvest people that haven't even thought about Ultimate Challenge. People have never even thought about primitive archery. And now we bring them in. That's the Ultimate Challenge. Now, last bit. In for a penny, in for a pound. I'm not even going to mention that, like, I still don't understand British people because everything is pudding. What? You're not drinking tea, you're eating dinner? Why'd you say you're having tea now? But this last bad go around of weather, it wasn't bad for us because our power lines don't fall down. We've gone through enough turmoil with the weather that the bugs have been worked out basically. Up here we look at snow as like, oh, that's pretty fun. In fact, one of my greatest joys is shoveling and snow blowing in the dark. I love waking up at 5 in the morning and it's pitch dark and shoveling snow. It's fun, it's recreation. But I gotta let you in on a secret here. You would think, being like 40 minutes from the Mackinac Bridge, the entrance to the UP, the weather would be horrible here. But until the Great Lakes, which we are surrounded by them, Lake Michigan, about I don't know, eighth of a mile that way. We live on a Great Lake. I mean, the property we got a beach. And then over there, Lake Huron, an hour and 20 minutes away. I mean, we crossed a state here, an hour and 20 minutes, surrounded by water. It never really got below 20. And we do get lake effect snow, but nothing like Buffalo. It was recreational the past 3 days. It was wonderful. We discovered this little town. This is where the value lies. A little town in Lake Huron. I was there today. It's easy. It's an easy drive. Just 68 to the other side of the state. Wonderful little city. A beautiful city, and everyone is kind of live and let live. By and large, responsible, non-problematic people. If you don't rake your leaves, nobody complains. If you don't shovel your sidewalk, whatever. People just walk in the streets. They're wide, and there's not much traffic. They don't try to get tourism in. Wonderful little town. And the only reason I'm saying this is because you are the cool kids. My viewers are the cool kids. And so if I had 1 million viewers, which hopefully I never will have, I would never say this because I don't want to just drag masses of humanity into my channel because I don't agree with a lot of people. But this town we live in, I was just kind of looking. I received a notice. We bought our house over there. Hang on to your shorts. There's a house on 2nd Street, 2 blocks from the beach, for $62,000. Houses are affordable there, and it is. It's a beautiful town. I just love it. Even in the summertime when we're just crushed by tourism here, you can walk down the middle of the street there because they're smart enough not to try to attract major bouts of tourism. All the people from Chicago and California and New York City are moving here. Nobody's moving there. Check it out, Rogers City. Any of my viewers, I'd welcome you as neighbors. Get the heck out of these areas where, the power is out for days at a time, where they don't have the infrastructure to handle, winter. And again, the secret is, winters are not horrid up here. They're not horrid. Now, if it was February and the lakes were frozen, then it's like they turned the thermostat down. Then we can get 10 and 20 below zero weather. But man, this past Christmas vacation, it never really got below 20 here. Well, that is all. Thank you for watching. I appreciate your viewership, and definitely, start sinew backing. The hardest part is just basically taking a hammer to tendons. That's it. It's just sitting down and taking the hammer to the tendons. Because once you get that done, then you get into the flow of things, and it's easy. And then you carefully prep your bow so that stuff sticks down there. And if you don't make sure that, like, when you lay a bundle, that there aren't any crossed fibers. When you have crossed fibers, that's where you start getting these weird separations. If you're very careful and you're laying down fibers that are straight, more or less, they don't need to be perfect, then you get pretty good results. But even if you had crossed fibers, you could have a completely ugly job, with gaps where you can see the wood through it. The stuff is still effective. This has got to be the most foolproof type of backing you can do. It really does. And sometimes, I got to be honest, if you haven't, and I'm not saying ugly and like that's repulsive, but ugly, not smooth, or you do have separations and you can see the wood, it still looks cool. It's called texture. Having trouble with your bows breaking? With string follow? Sinew back them. Increase your technology.